To the saints, to Our Lady, to our Lord, we prevail. Making this video, I know there's other people out there frustrated about the VA, especially the one in Saginaw. And I'm vacillating between deleting that one video, giving them, some, positive comments, between keeping it and deleting it. Because it matters. I'm not a big YouTuber, but I made this channel to help others and to document the things that have happened to us in just a crazy 8 years. That's not even crazy. It's targeting. It's human rights violations. It's all kinds of stuff. It's a lot of retaliation. And there's somebody organizing against me. That's clear. People try to say, oh, it's a little paranoia, maybe you need to be evaluated for this and this. And I'm like, well, first of all, I've spent time getting a graduate degree in psychology as well. And you have to admit that in today's day and age that, things such as gang stalking or things such as organizing and bullying somebody in social media and then applying it to real life, because people with the military know you can't have a trail of evidence. You'll be prosecuted federally, you'll be kicked out of the military, and this applies to any federal or state agency. It's common sense. Don't let things get carried past, QAnon, some QAnon website or some Snapchat thread. So, I've had enough. I appeared, agreeable and such. I think that I went to the VA today to discuss, what we're going to do about, the really, really incredibly high urine glucose tests, the really, really, really high blood glucose tests. 267. That's high. Somebody should have called me back and said, hey, did you know your blood glucose is 267? That's above the diabetic range. Above. And it explains a lot. I'm like talking about ammonia in my urine and the, stink, the pungent smell, and being tired more than normal. This joint disorder, whatever is going on, they say it's osteoarthritis. I say it's either psoriatic or rheumatoid, because they're not looking, they're not doing a full exam and they're not doing a full workup. It's piecemeal here and there, and then people guess on a lot of stuff. And they would rather pay me as an alcoholic why? Because I'm Catholic, or what? Because I have European ancestry, maybe even Ashkenazi, not sure. Or is it because the Native American roots, or because, it's a couple of generations down the line, some of our family was Central Asian. What is it that makes, them think of the whole alcohol thing? I don't know. Because my grandfather had a winery. Does that mean he's an alcoholic? And I am? What is it, And what about the fatty food thing? Yeah, do you see me chomping on pork, anything pork? Or, just anyway. But, so they'd rather look at the liver too and think that's the answer to every problem. And, obviously there is a problem, but it's not the cause of the problems. We just keep beating around the bush. But anyway, so after today, I almost got up and left. But she said, wait, the doctor agrees, maybe it warrants looking at your sugar again. So we ordered an A1C and another blood glucose screen tomorrow. The A1C, the A1C, they should have done that a long time ago. So that's the only thing that kind of moves me to go in. Otherwise, I'd just rather cut ties completely. this wastes my time. I go there all day long and I spend time running around doing stuff for the VA. But now, for our program, for our benefits, they don't want to count that time. Um, they want to focus on only job searching, which would be great um, if there was a plethora of jobs for me. So I focus on, talking to people in person, dropping off a resume or a cover letter to people in person. Um, because when people look at my resume, because of the education background, the military background, they don't want to hire me. I've had more than one hiring manager tell me this. They're like, "You have 3 master's degrees. We don't even didn't even know that people like you are around this town, except at the college." They're like, and one hiring manager told me, he's like, honestly, he said, if I hire you, I had to think in the back of my mind, what if this someday this guy's here for a year or two and he decides he wants to become the human resource manager because of his background and his military training. Obviously I'm going to be replaced. So that's what one hiring manager told me. He's like, that's in the back of some of our minds. He's like, and guys like you don't belong in a small town. So I focus on stuff that I am qualified for, that I can do. But it takes time to prep for this stuff and find out who is interested in the kind of stuff that I could do. Consulting, pastoral counseling, research. But these are harder to find jobs. And then I have to consider my age, my health. I can't lie to people. I can't be an office assistant either. Because some days are just a bad day. I'm not going to be able to work on a computer all day or answer a phone. Um, some days I'll take a couple naps, uh, which is not really a problem. And then I have to consider my daughter's health too. She has some health complications too. Plus, she's gifted and talented in some ways, and in other ways, she's special needs. She's going to need somebody to have a lot of attention to teach her. And I'm not going to send her to school around here without a car. My child will not go to a school that has had children carry weapons. My child will not go to a school that she has to wait on a street corner for a bus. No, it's not going to happen. Not in the human trafficking corridor of Saginaw County, Michigan, or Genesee County, or Wayne County. No. So there's that as well. And my focus is my business, but I don't have the funding, and they don't want to count my time working to bring back my business. Apparently, they're not going to count that time either. And they told me, "Oh, nobody's checking what you're doing." I said, "But yeah, but my personality is I can't lie, I can't exaggerate." So, but they refuse to work with me. No doctor will sign anything for an accommodation. We're not going to give it to you. We don't care what kind of medical files you give us, what kind of imaging or diagnosis or pathology. We don't care. So, it's obvious they found some of the ways around stuff for ADA. So, I've had enough with this VA. Actually, I'm going off on a tangent here a little. But I'm tired of this VA, and they've had so many blood tests from me. They've had more than enough time. The A1C is not even required at this point because the past 2 years they had probably about 10 blood draws on me. And out of those 10 blood draws, 8 of them are for either pre-diabetes or diabetes. 8 of them. This glucose draw the other day, and also including glucose, urine glucose as well. There's about 4 or 5 of them, always over either the pre-diabetes or diabetes, always. So yeah, I'm tired of it. I almost got up to leave, but she said, "Wait, we're tomorrow, our idea is to test again. I'm like, well, yeah, it's a good idea. But then I had an hour to think about it. I'm like, I'm sick of this. We go through this every time. I'm tired of being pacified and gaslit. I'm sick of it. Happened during a deployment. I got married, and this is my first wife, my beautiful oldest daughter, and very intelligent and very, just a great kid, very ladylike, um, very intentional in what she does, and she's just wonderful. I'm very proud of her. And she came out of that marriage, but I was pacified the whole deployment. You don't get married in the deployment. Yeah, I agree, but I did. Yeah, it wasn't a long term. We were together 3 years, but sometimes your spouse's issues can become burdensome. I'm no what's the word? I'm no candy cane, but at least some jealousy issues and insecurity, it can really become destructive. And when your spouse is looking for bombs all day, interviewing people coming out of base, patting them down, um, that kind of turmoil, it could get them killed. So, it's the reason why a lot of military marriages fail. But anyway, so they tried to do that, pacify me a long time, pacify, try to intimidate a little bit. Um, I'm not saying they were overly malicious. It was more subtle, but trying to get me to back down or back off. But I wasn't going to back off. Family, even before country comes family. The only thing that's before family is God. And so that's why you protect your family when you're in a dangerous position. Your family is secure and protected. But generally, most times you don't have to choose family over country. It's very rare. But anyway, so after I stewed over it, I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of this. We went through this before. Yeah, come back tomorrow. We'll do another fasting glucose. We have done this so many times. The only thing different this time is the A1C3. You know what? But VA regulations do not require an A1C3. It's recommended, or 2 separate blood glucose testing time. And it says 2 different glucose testing time. I don't believe the regulation is specific to blood. I think it can also be urine, or a combination of both. When I read the rules and procedure, it doesn't specifically say it has to be blood glucose. A1C, it's always blood glucose. It's the index. The A1C is what, the last 30 days index of your blood glucose, and all it is a calculation. It's better to get the 2, get 2 or 3 blood tests, or, like I said, rules and procedures doesn't exclude urine glucose testing. Because if your body is not properly processing glucose, the first place it dumps it is the kidneys. So, that's also good. I have my battery warning here. But so, after all of this, and then trying to get an appointment for my ultrasound, for my mass, she tried to say, well, why don't you make it more appointments with your provider? Yeah, I've tried that. And I have to deal with, nurses that want to be combative. Not all. They really advertise the women veterans at the VA, which is good, but I feel I've never seen anything posted for any guys, or for Pacific Islander and Asian month, or for Native American month. I've never seen anything. Nothing. or like I said, Native American month, or for heck, even during the high holidays, why not post something about Jewish military veterans? There's never been anything there either. Kind of like Frankenmuth. I love Frankenmuth. You know, we used to have family in Frankenmuth. I love Frankenmuth. But the only thing missing from Frankenmuth is the Jewish contribution to Southern German culture. It's missing. You know, there's no Bavarian, you know, coverage of what Jews have contributed in Bavaria. There's nothing. So it's kind of like a little bit left out. You know, because Ashkenazim have been a very heavy contribution to Southern German culture, to Austrian culture. They've been a part of it for millennia. But anyway, not every Bavarian is Lutheran. But I mean, I'll just say that. But you know, this is it's kind of similar here with the VA. You know, I just feel kind of left out. You know, what about all the contribution of of men in general? You know, there's nothing wrong with giving everybody fair time. You know, it's just that I think I'm not a conservative, but it's kind of like a way to rebel against Trump's anti-DEI stuff. Kind of very subtle way to rebel against it. You know, why can't there be equal contribution? There's so much diversity in this country. There's so many people, so many backgrounds in the military. It is awesome. You know, you just having one lunch in one unit, one platoon or one brigade, you could see so much different cultural food. And then you could hear the language, the music. There's so much. Why be exclusive just to be combative? You know, I say the same thing, you know, with these people angry because they lost their jobs because they're DEI and they make $200,000 or $300,000 a year. You know, while veterans are having to sue the VA to get $300 a month, you got somebody teaching common sense. Oh, people are LGBTQ plus. Treat them with respect, because also there's heterosexual people who should be treated with respect. Oh, we have people who are Indian American. Oh, they're from India. Treat them with respect. Oh, we have people who are African American. And we have people who are not African American, but we call them African American, but they're not. People like from Haiti. People from Haiti. Or maybe people who are Creole. You know, they want to be called Creole. I'm Creole. Yes, I'm African American, but I'm Creole. You know, why not? It's common sense to treat people with respect. And if they're going to say, well, I don't want to be called this, I'm Haitian American. Or they're like, hey, you know, don't call me Native American. You know, I may be 3/4 white, but actually I was raised by my grandmother on the Navajo reservation. I speak Navajo. So call me I forgot the name of their people. Anyway, call me by the name of my people, which is, I forgot. But anyway, you get my point. These are common sense things. And so anyway, this isn't the point, but I'm tired of this VA. You know, you can't get an ultrasound scheduled in person. You can't get one scheduled on the phone because nobody picks up the phone. And even the guy I talked to in radiology, he wasn't aware that the scheduling people don't have voicemail. You know, you get tired of it. And I just talked to the nurse about making sure we get an ultrasound to figure out what the mass is, you know. We don't know what this mass is. It could be cancer. It may not be. Praise God. I don't think it is. But if we're not going to mobilize to find out, I'm sick of it. And I encourage you, you know, if somebody knows how to deal with this better than me, you know, I can handle a lot. I can cope with a lot. But I'm tired of spinning my tires while while my commitments to our program for our financial stability, what little we have, living in poverty, at least it's something. I have demands I have to meet with them, but as long as I'm spinning my wheels with the VA and with nonsense about my CMP complaint or CMP um, uh, compensation application, they got me going here, going there, going here. There. Oh, but you can't have copies of anything. You got to do a FOIA request. A FOIA request for my own medical exam. Okay. But it's in my medical record with the VA, but I can't see it. It's so sick of the nonsense. What's the point of getting a third party medical examiner to do your CNP exam DBQs when you can't get a copy of it? You have to file a FOIA request. And this VA, the only way you get anything with a FOIA request is you wait 20 days. And last time I did a FOIA request for my record, not only did it take 20 days, but when I finally got it, it was completely out of order. And there's nothing I could do because it's a burned CD-ROM. Everything is out of order. It took hours and hours. It took me about, I would say, around 72 hours to organize the files so I know what is where and print copies. 72 hours of office time to get that done. So, I'm tired of dealing with it. And I encourage people, if you have an idea, please pass it to me. I will say this, patient advocate doesn't work. The patient advocates at this VA are so political, and even the IG, 3 years ago, did an investigation into the entire VA system, the patient advocate system, and they don't use their software enough to log complaints. They don't track them enough, and many complaints they found were dismissed to satisfy the administration or to satisfy medical providers. Even the IG said our patient advocate system is failing. It does not work. And then you can't forget that now people have DBRS. They even let the contractors at the call center use DBRS to target veterans. That system was designed for VA staff. They're not VA staff, they're contractors. So, so I think I'm done. If anybody has any advice about good doctors they know in Saginaw Bay County, doctors that are educated, doctors that are patient, doctors that can deal, that doesn't feel threatened or irritated by a patient that knows about medical stuff like they do, or maybe on the same level, but in the same direction, and somebody that pays attention to detail, and somebody that expects, as they pay attention to detail, so should the provider, and somebody that can handle complex medical patients with layered issues. Some doctors can't handle it; they get stressed out. So if anybody has any ideas, and you've seen this video, pass them on. But I'll just say that patient advocate system does not work. And I have went to the next level. I followed DOD policy and spoken to the next level of various providers, and all they did is retaliate, lie, and say I yelled at them. We're on speakerphone. Lie and say I yelled at them, and then flag me. Anyway, I didn't like her. I looked into her background, and a lot of stuff just does not make sense. Doesn't. How does somebody go from a small medical university in Florida to assistant prof job at U of M Medical School, and then made assistant chief of staff at Saginaw VA? How does that happen? I don't really care if she sees this video. There's a lot of providers there. I just have questions how they got in their positions. It doesn't make sense to me when I dig into their background. And I do, yeah. It's not stalking when you're checking out your medical provider. I encourage people to do it. It's your right. You have a right to know who they are, what they've done, what they've written, not just a 1 or 2 paragraph biographical excerpt on a web page. No, you have a right to dig into their background. Even their license number is supposed to be posted on the wall where they work. You're supposed to be able to have a copy of their medical licensing number and their address that their office is registered out of. All of this stuff they're supposed to give to you upon request. And if people don't want to tell you the name that the practice is registered under, then you give the address and file a complaint with Laura. But anyway, so I'm kind of, I don't know. I think I'm kind of at my wit's end. And I encourage people, I hope that people watching this, you can find better resources to deal with this if you are. I know of another veteran that's having all kinds of problems in Ann Arbor, so much that he's had to take them to court just to get medical care. The thing is, those people, they don't have their jobs written in U.S. code. Our medical care is. So they try to hand it off to big business. That's why we have the VISN system, Veterans Integrated Service Network. They're trying to turn into a giant HMO and take away, any rights that we have. And as a libertarian, that's the first time I'm going to speak up, is when somebody's trying to take away some of my rights that are enshrined in, the laws of this great land. And so I encourage others, if you have to deal with this nonsense, I hope that you could be more creative and have more resources than myself to deal with it. And like I said, I'm looking for some good providers, who are going to probably make a lot of money off me, off my care, and, maybe even off my child's care, because I'm tired of dealing with nonsense, and people that turn the VA into a bad experience when it doesn't have to be. Oh, and speaking of that, happened to see the guy that I've talked about in my videos before at the VA, that it's great when people support black-owned businesses and ethnic-owned businesses. It makes this country diverse, and everybody can have a piece of the dream. The problem is, though, when he rewards people who are racist and encourages them to, he gave a turkey to somebody that is a racist. And that guy's not as bad as the other racist who got his turkey, because he's the one who assaulted me. And what they did was wait 12 hours until the next morning, and they took their turkey that they got from the VA, and they gave it to the man who assaulted me. And he's the worst racist. And it makes me sick to my stomach. And also the thing is, this social worker got his job because his dad's a disabled vet. But I don't like him. Yeah. Not anymore. Not after the stuff that he's done. And he also tried to bully me, to push me to mental health. He said, you really want to get help to get your family out of a situation? Go to mental health. Then I'll get some help for you. Excuse me? But he's got everybody at the VA fooled. But I don't think he's a cool guy. I don't think he should be part of the VA veteran loving crew, because he's not. If people knew his real attitude, I don't think he'd have such a warm reception. But yeah, he was there today. For the entire time we were on the first floor, every time I look around the corner, he's there on his phone. So he's probably still working at HUD Vash. But I look into his background too. A lot of questions. He came into my home multiple times. I'm gonna background check him, but he comes into my home. But so anyway, Yeah, I've had it, I don't know what kind of people they're hiring. They're certainly not people that are, concerned about good patient outcomes or maximum medical improvement or homeless veteran uh, recovery. Getting somebody to a house is not recovery. If you pull out the mat of the voucher, can they stand on their own? No, then your program is failing. Well, we're trying to get more people on disability. Is that the answer? Or should it be a holistic answer like, okay, as you talk with somebody in occupational therapy about your limitations? No, that should be our first step. Let's go talk to an OT and figure out, because of your medical issues, whether diagnosed or not, what are your limitations? Okay, we know that now. Okay, now let's go to your provider and see what can be treated. Oh, okay, this. We can treat this. This, we can't. Okay, now we've identified some things that limit you. We're treating them, but they're still disabilities. Oh, these things, we can't treat them. They can't be fixed. Um, Maybe you'll have an assisted device, or maybe you'll get medication for a psychological issue, whatever. But we've identified all this stuff. Now let's send you to file your C&P complaint, or your C&P complaint, not complaint, your C&P compensation application. And also, we have some resources in the community to help you identify jobs that were recommended through OT, so that we can help you find something. Or if there's nothing out there that fits you, your temperament, and fits your medical issues, then we have this guy right here and this lady right here. They're specialists in small businesses. That's how you take care of a veteran.